Hello, and welcome to the DME podcast, brought to you by DME, the podcast booking platform. Whether you're a podcaster or an aspiring guest, the DME app is a perfect platform for you to get booked and manage your podcast bookings. I'm your host, Sukhay, the founder of DME, and on this podcast, we'll be discussing the latest news and views in tech, the ins and outs of entrepreneurship, and even dipping our toes into the adrenaline-filled world of mixed martial arts. After a short hiatus, we're back with a great discussion with Dr. Tru Powell. Tru is an entrepreneur and nationally recognised branding expert. We speak about growing from humble beginnings in inner city Birmingham to developing into an award-winning entrepreneur, brand strategist and publicity coach. Tru shares some of his keys to success, his inspirations, and the importance of giving back to the community with his numerous charitable endeavours. This was a really insightful discussion, so please enjoy Dr. Tru Powell. Tru Powell, welcome to the DME podcast. Thank you for giving up some of your time and agreeing to do this for me.
Thank you for having me. It's an absolute honour.
Yeah, great. So I just explaining just off before we start recording, I kind of found you on my search for inspirational figures from Birmingham and the Midlands, because on the DME podcast, we like to cover kind of tech issues and business related issues. I kind of think you and obviously local issues for Birmingham. So kind of said I'm a bit of a Brummie nationalist. I kind of like to big up the own area and represent where we're from. We all do to a lesser extent. I kind of had seen your face around in the ether a little bit. I didn't quite know who you were or what you kind of did, but looked into you. I thought, this guy's great. So we could definitely benefit from the experience. So for what I'm understand, you're an entrepreneur in your own right, and you kind of focus on branding and a lot of community and work as well. So do you want to just give us a quick little introduction to yourself and how you got to where you are today?
Yes, of course. So my name is obviously Tru Powell, or Dr. Tru Powell, if you want to put respect on it, by all means. And I am an entrepreneur based in Birmingham, and I run a few different businesses. And I believe that my purpose is to provide a platform for others to be platformed, particularly from underrepresented communities. So I do that through the magazine that I run and I'm the CEO and founder for, which is the Black Business Magazine, where we highlight and celebrate Black entrepreneurs and professionals across the UK. I also run the Multicultural Inspire Awards, where we platform talent. The inaugural award will take place next year. However, I have stepped down from the MBCC Awards that I was a CEO and business owner in, to focus on new ventures. And I also am a personal branding coach and specialist. And I work a lot with entrepreneurs, building their personal branding, getting visible, getting credibility and building platforms of their own. So I say all that to say, I believe my purpose really is to provide platforms for others to be platformed.
It's a great mission statement, that. I'm just wondering then, so you said you believe that's your purpose. Where do you think that purpose derives from? Is it just your own inner, I'm here to do something special? Is it inspired by religion or anything like that? What's your own motivation to kind of get to that point?
I think there's not one single thing. So I guess the fundamental thing is I've been on the platform multiple times. So I've won major awards. I've won BYPY, Birmingham Young Professional of the Year. I've won Future Faces Award from the Chamber of Commerce. I've won a Great British Entrepreneur Award. Like, I've won so many different awards. I've been given a doctorate. I've been given an accolade. I've been noted as one of the future figures from BBC and an entrepreneur to watch from HSBC. So I've done it all. And then I've been in the newspapers a lot. I've been in the press a lot. I've been in magazines a lot. I've been on front covers. And I have built a personal brand, or I've built platforms, or I've been on platforms where I know how beneficial it was for me and my business and my career. And I've been, if it was that beneficial to me, then why not afford that opportunity to other people? Why not create my own magazine? Why not create my own award ceremony? And why not help and support people get into the press, understand the press, and build their personal brand? So that's probably one of the primary reasons, is I've been there and done it and understand it and know the value that it's brought to me in my career. But I guess secondary is the fact that I am religious and I'm a man of God. I'm a man of faith, and I believe, to give, and it will come back to you. So if I'm giving, if I'm providing, if I'm allowing people to use platforms that I've created, then I know that I will continually be afforded platforms, which I have been. So I'm continually being asked to contribute on, different TV programs and news channels, and contribute to different platforms. And also I'm continually being decorated and accoladed, and people giving me awards and saying that I'm one to watch and all these amazing things. And I think it's primarily because of the work that I do outside of it.
That's great. So to get to that point of you having been there and done that, what was your own journey like in your own career to get to that point of, before all the awards kick and all the recognition kicks in? How did you go about kind of developing your own knowledge of branding and entrepreneurship? And kind of what are the lessons that you kind of learned to get to that point, and what are some of the mistakes that you even made and thought, right, okay, I know I've benefited from that experience and I can share that with others?
Yeah. So for me, it's been a journey and a half, so to speak. So I grew up in Newtown stroke Aston. So I spent half of my childhood in Newtown and the other half in Aston, and opportunities were very sparse. And it is a true inner city, and I have no qualms to say that I grew up in humble beginnings and grew up in poverty, and we really didn't have much. And I knew that a way out would have been through either entertainment, sports, or entrepreneurship. And I chose the entrepreneurship route. So that was, I guess, one of the main drivers. I wanted to change the trajectory of not just my life, but my family's life and my future family's life. And I wanted to live a certain lifestyle, and I knew that I would have had to work really, really hard in order to do that. So of course, I really focused on kind of building businesses and building things that will help me escape the life that I was living at the time. And so I guess for me, it was looking forward and driving home, almost having the motivation from fear of not wanting to be in the place where I grew up in. And not to say that it was a horrible space or place, because we grew up with love and family over everything and all that. And my mum tried her best to make us not feel that we didn't have. But the reality is that we were in poverty. And that was and that's something that I don't want to go back to, and that's something that I didn't want to continue living. So I worked really, really hard in trying to change the circumstances that I was born into. So that was like one of my huge motivations. And then the second motivation was actually the fact that I knew that the journey of mine almost had to be public, because I wanted to inspire others. I wanted to motivate others. I wanted to show others, particularly people who looked like me from those areas, that actually I shouldn't be an anomaly. And if I could do it, you could do it too. And I'm literally just the same as you. I'm no different in the fact that I come up with the same or very similar objections and very similar challenges. And I use, and I changed my mindset to actually be forthright and actually go after what I want. And you could do the same. And one of the reasons why I became public with my journey is because I wanted people to be inspired in that way.
Yeah, I kind of identify a lot with that. Kind of hear similar stories, right? So actually, I grew up not far from you, in Handsworth, just across the Birchwood Road. Yeah, pretty much. I think obviously you migrate out to the other bees, etc. So, but yeah, so I think we're kind of from a familiar background. I think the way Birmingham is, it's kind of a melting pot, and you kind of get all breeds and colours, but you kind of the same mentality exists within all communities, really.
Pretty much the same social economic background, right? Isn't that? And particularly, it doesn't matter whether you're black, brown, or white. If you grew up in certain areas, in Birmingham, being the inner city areas, it's quite common that you would share, if not ethnicity or religion, most certainly social economic backgrounds.
Exactly that. I think I was watching. I think it's one of these football documentaries, one of the football hooligan documentaries. And they were talking about the Birmingham City fans and the Zulus, etc., and how they were famous in the 70s, 80s. Most other football firms or hooligan gangs, effectively, were kind of very much ethnically centered. The Zulus stood out because they were multi-ethnic, and they go to Leeds, they go to Cardiff, they go down to Millwall, etc. Like, who are these guys, right? Because they're all different colours, right? They're clearly representative of the city. But had you talked about obviously facing challenges, we all kind of face those in various ways. What was it about your personality? Was it that mindset change that actually it really come across a barrier for whatever that barrier is, whether it's someone treating you differently because of the way you look or where you're from or from your accent? How do you kind of suppress that initial fuck you instinct as opposed to right, I'm going to turn that negative into a positive?
Oh, let's not get it twisted. I had those moments. I had those terror moments. I had those moments where I wanted to break everything and everyone. And I guess it's life experience, right? That kind of teaches you different ways to dealing with things and being exposed to different people in different circles and understanding how they deal with things, and then looking at successful people, reading books, understanding how they operate and trying to imitate that in my lifestyle because I wanted to reach a certain status. And, dare I say, education was one of those defining moments, particularly higher education, and being able to be amongst other people who was able to critically think, who was on the same trajectory, who wanted better in their life, who was paying for their education, meaning that they were serious about their future. And being around those people kind of made you start thinking differently about how you wanted your life to end up. And in terms of challenges and coming across challenges, I think we all come across challenges, and it's how we face those challenges and how we deal with those challenges, and being able to learn from those challenges and understand actually that, you have the ability to overcome those challenges is paramount. And, I'll go back to a few things or a few defining moments is A, university, B, faith and religion, and understanding that there isn't nothing that you can't overcome through God, and C, just being around different people.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you sound very much goal orientated. So I think you sound very focused in terms of, you obviously from a young age, you've got to have this focus about like getting out of here, we're improving ourselves, and this is the end goal, and everything else is incremental steps. Is that very much the approach that you took, and is that very much the approach you take now, or has it changed?
Yes, well, it's developed over time. So absolutely now I set goals, audacious goals, and I break them down into bite-sized chunks so I can achieve those goals. And it's almost like a book that I read, which is called, what's the book called now?
Researching his bookshelf of his library of books.
Oh my, I can't. If I'm the tip of my tongue, and I'm sure it would come to me. I can't actually see in my books. Well, basically, it's a book that basically tells you can achieve anything that you want to achieve if you break it down incrementally, and if you break it down into bite-sized chunks, and day after day after day after day, you'll start to see the improvement and you'll start to reach your goals. So that's what I did do. So I wrote down my goals into bite-sized chunks, and then I worked at them daily.
Yeah, I think there's the old saying, isn't it? How do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time, isn't it? So just kind of focusing a little bit more on branding and personal versus business branding. How do you kind of migrate into that field, not from doing it yourself? And is it using yourself as your own use case to say, right, my name's Tru Powell, this is what I've done. I started from here, now I'm here. Now I'm a fellow entrepreneur or fellow company who's looking to improve their branding. This is what I can do for you. How do you kind of, it must take some inner fortitude and some risk of sort of element of risk that you have to take to, right, I'm going to go do this now. And you kind of have to sell yourself. So you kind of, are you a natural salesperson?
No, that's, and I think, I fell in this, career, because of COVID. So before COVID or pre-COVID, my businesses were pretty much face-to-face businesses. I had an event management company where I would plan corporate events for people across the country. I had a children's salon where we would do children's pampering. And I also had a performing arts school or academy for inner city children, which were all public facing, which were all, people facing businesses.
Yeah.
And of course, COVID hit and shut everything down. And it meant that I had to close or stop trading all the businesses. And as an entrepreneur, what do you do in those circumstances? How do you pivot? What do you want to do? And I looked at what I was good at. I looked at what I achieved, and I looked at how I could help people online in the first instance. And I felt coaching was a good step because I was relatively successful in business, but I just didn't want to be another business coach. I almost thought to myself, the reason why I'm successful is because of my personal brand and how I built my personal brand to help support the businesses. So I said, well, why not coach in personal branding? Why not devise a few coaching programs and really understand the blueprint? So I spent a few weeks just really writing down the blueprint and understanding kind of the steps that I took. And in the first instance, rolled it out to a few people and used myself as a case study. And then once I, coached a few more different clients, then I was able to use them as case studies. So now I very rarely use myself as the case study. I'm more the guide. My clients are the heroes. I use them as the case study and the shining lights to say, yes, we've done well.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, I mean, I kind of get that, but you see a lot of coaches and guys who sell themselves on various adverts. So you just kind of click through YouTube. There's always some guy who's selling the great property portfolio, or he's selling crypto, and they're great at what they do, and they're really presentable, and they're great salespeople. But to me, my skeptical ear, they come across as bullshit artists as well, right? So I think it must have been a fine line just trying to tell you that actually, no, I'm not blagging you here. I've got a portfolio of work, and you're not just selling yourself, you're selling what you're capable of doing.
Well, exactly. And I think this is the thing, everything that I teach and everything that I speak about, I've either done for myself or I've helped my clients to do. So I speak a lot about building brands. I've built my brand. I'm one of the, I speak about networking. My black book is ridiculous when it comes to networking. I speak about winning awards and how to win awards. I've won multiple awards and all very prestigious awards. I speak about podcasting and what that can do. I've had a top 10 podcast in business. I speak about getting in the press. I'm in the press every other week. I've got articles. I run a magazine. So everything that I speak about in terms of, or teach in terms of building brands and the elements to build your brand, I have done at a very high level. I speak about speaking and what that can do for your career and how speaking is, I've made nearly over £100,000 in speaking alone over the years. So everything that I've taught, I have achieved and done myself. But I totally get the sentiment where people have turned coaches overnight, and I might rent a Ferrari, rent a Rolex, take a few pictures on Instagram and say, let me help you build a property portfolio and you can do what I'm doing, living it up in Dubai, blah, blah, blah. I don't do none of that. I speak for itself. I don't believe in using material things to work with clients. So you'll very rarely see my house online. You'll very rarely see the car that I'm driving online. You'll very rarely see, and I do have a nice house, 5-bed in Sutton. I do have a nice car and all of that stuff, but you'll very rarely see me do that I take holidays. You'll very rarely see me promote anything whilst I'm on holiday. It's just usually me and my children, or me and my family. So I have a different style, and that way of coaching actually in marketing works for some, and it's a very Americanized way. A lot of very do it, and it works for some. And I'm not hating on those, and I'm not saying that that's a bad way to market. It's just a way that I don't do it. I think ethically, there's a fine line with preying on people's circumstance. And I think people prey on people's circumstance through showing all these material things and giving people the hope that they can get that if they buy into the course. And that's not a promise that I do. I always say you could build your brand, which is a step of you getting to where you want to get to. But no, you're not going to take this course and then tomorrow I'll be able to afford a Ferrari or a Rolex. That's just not how it works.
Yeah, so no shortcuts. Yeah. So I think your mentality and your approach, I think you mentioned obviously the rah-rah guys are very much either the American-based coaches and brand experts, or the kind of very southern UK, south of England, London, they kind of go with that. And I think your approach, for me, it kind of identifies with what Birmingham, what the Midlands are. It's kind of hardworking. You're not shouting too loudly about yourself. You do things quietly but confidently. But you're always aware of where you come from. You're looking over your shoulder. No, I'm still the same guy. I've not changed.
Yeah, literally. The only thing that I probably would kind of counteract is that I do speak loudly about the work that I do and I champion the work that I do. And I guess it goes back to the top of the conversation, whereby actually building a brand is about you being public with the work that you do. But also, I believe that it's incumbent upon me to celebrate success and celebrate the work that I do, because I don't just want to be the only one from Newtown or the only black man from Newtown that's a success. I want to inspire others who look like me so that they can be successful too. So I believe that actually it's, as much as I like the glory and the praise and, oh, well done, you're doing amazing, inspiration, and all that stuff, that's great. And I will never say I don't or I dislike that, but I will caveat that with actually why I do the stuff that I do and shout about the work that I do. It goes far beyond the superficial praise. It's more because I feel that in order to change circumstances, you have to provide examples for people to see that they can do the same.
Yeah, it's all about striking that balance, isn't it, between you putting the brand out there, but obviously keeping yourself humble and grounded. I'm guessing your faith and your own moral grounding will kind of keep that in check. So just kind of moving on to kind of some of the social work you do. You're kind of very much orientated in the community and helping lots of charities and forefronting those charities. Do you want to just talk a little bit about some of those that you do?
Yeah, of course. So firstly, I run or used to run the Aston Performing Arts Academy, which is an inner city organisation that supports young children in performing arts, and it instills confidence and helps people like with their self-esteem, and then gives young people particularly a place where they can feel like they belong. That work I've been doing for nearly 20 years now, but also I do that alongside my brother, and we had a little break last year in order to kind of rethink and regroup and understand kind of where we want to take the business and the organisations, which we've kind of come into at the tail end of that right now. So watch this space and look forward to a relaunch of that coming soon. And sorry, was you going to say something?
No, I go carry on. Sorry.
And I'm an advocate and passionate around equality and diversity, particularly ethnicity. So you will see me do a lot of community work that helps black and brown people in certain guises, particularly from the inner city. And I'll be a voice to some of those people. I don't like using the term voice to the voiceless, because I believe everybody has a voice. Some just have louder voices than others. So I like to amplify those voices from those communities who need that amplification. So I would often talk and say things that need to be said that pretty much nobody else kind of wants to say. And I would use my platform in order to do that. And different things. So I used to co-own and run the MBCC Awards for a long time, nearly 8 years, and really proud of of what I did in that organization, in that business, and built the brand, and, you know, created something quite special for Birmingham, and was able to create a brand and get people in the room to be celebrated, who look like us. People like Linford Christie and Sir Trevor MacDonald and Lenny Henry and, you know, Leanne Pinnock from Little Mix, and all these great people who, national heroes of ours, and sometimes international heroes that we never really get to celebrate on a platform. And I'm grateful I was able to create a brand that was able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I was on the website a little bit earlier and I saw some of the faces, and I thought Denise Lewis was on there. I thought, she's around the corner from me. She's a double Olympic champion.
Yeah, exactly. And it's and for me, I knew I had to, you know, create platforms for individuals that would help build their credibility and that would help build their brand, and that's what the MBCC was. And whilst I didn't found the organisation, the event was founded by another lady. I was very much instrumental in building the brand that you see today. Fun times indeed.
I mean, you plant seeds, you water them, you let them grow, and then you kind of let them germinate into the wild, right?
And that's the thing. You can't be committed to one thing all the time. You know, you have to make space for different things, and that's why I've kind of moved on to creating a whole new different business model with a whole new different awards program, which we're kind of working on now, that would affect many more people in the way that MBCC Awards did. And it's not connected to MBCC Awards. It's not a continuation or an advancement of the MBCC Awards. It's an advancement of me, and what I do and what I bring to the table, so which I'm very excited about.
So would you say that's the difference between a business owner and a successful business owner versus an entrepreneur? An entrepreneur will start many things and have many different interests and take businesses to a level and then go onto a new project, versus a business owner who's very much focused on this is my thing, this is what I do, and they can be uber successful at it, but they'll be channeled in one particular field or one particular lane, versus someone like yourself who's seems to be multifaceted, has got multiple skill ranges, has a core set of skills, but then adopts them through different verticals and different avenues, and has businesses and interests in a variety of different areas.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's different terminology for different things. And I personally think that, entrepreneurs are able to see opportunities around them and have the confidence to get up and have a shot at those opportunities, whether it wins or whether it fails. And as you said, business owners are quite like entrepreneurs, because at some point they would have been able or would have saw an opportunity to start something, or a gap in the market to start something, but quite easily become business owners in that they become quite settled, you know, and they will stay in that business forever and ever, amen, and they see that business as their identity, and everything's just wrapped up in that business. Whereas, you know, entrepreneurs are not like that. Entrepreneurs can start a business, grow it and sell it, and be happy with that, and start something else, grow it and sell it, and be happy with. But, you know, terminology is everything, because I can also see myself as a business owner with some of the businesses that I run, because at the point I'm running them, I am a business owner. So, you know, it's just swings and roundabouts. But yeah, from the face of it, entrepreneurs are generally those who see opportunities, seize those opportunities, and go for those opportunities.
Yeah, awesome. So I just wanted to pivot back to something you kind of alluded to a little bit earlier. Obviously, on the D&D podcast, we love our tech and we love specifically our podcasting. Just wanted to kind of share your thoughts and your kind of experiences on the podcasting landscape. How did you kind of find podcasting as a crucial avenue in building your own brand?
Oh, it's very crucial. I think for me, I needed to be an expert in the field. I needed to understand podcasting. I also needed to learn doing podcasting, and I also needed to build my visibility and build my following. And my podcast, you know, was for the Creative Entrepreneurs podcast. I do need to do a season 2. but it's just a lot of work. And my first ever guest was Ben Francis from Gymshark.
Okay, yeah.
So it just, and then
I've seen that podcast actually. I remember.
And then, I had Jamelia on the podcast, superstar singer from Birmingham, and all of the great people, Ben Amana from Botswar, and just incredible people that came on the podcast that have done incredible different things. And in the first week, I had 10,000 subs on this podcast, which is insane. I peaked at number 9 on the Apple business chart again, which is insane because for a first podcast, you don't do that. And I was the first Black person in the Midlands to have a top 10 business podcast, which again, I thought was an incredible achievement. I've built my following to a point where, I have people all over the world. My podcast is still peaking, in the top 50 in places like Kuwait, and this is 2 years after its launch. So, just last month I had an email to say that it's number 47 or something in Kuwait, and I'm like, who in Kuwait is listening to my what? But it goes to show that it's a international entity, and that you can build a following, which will turn into fans, which will turn into customers through podcasting and through the audio platforms.
Yeah, so obviously I'm very passionate about the podcasting game, and I won't share my numbers out of embarrassment now. I don't think, you're right. It touches all markets and it's global because the technology behind podcasts, it's open to everyone. It's almost open source in terms of anyone can fire up a phone and launch a podcast and get going within minutes more than anything. But I also think I love my history. Kind of explain this privately, and I really like ancient history. And it's like, right, how do those stories of ancient history survive? It's because, there's some guy in a cave somewhere. He's choosing letters or symbols and images. And I think not only will your podcast reach global audience and Tru Powell, but as long as the internet exists, your podcast exists. Tru Powell voice exists.
Yeah.
Right. So not just for your own family, your own generations, or your grandchildren, great grandchildren, whatever it may be, they can go back and listen to what their grandfather thought. Right. But so can others, and your message is universal and it exists at that time. So obviously, at the moment, we do that through books, and we can go back and read books that are 100 years old, 1,000 years old, 2,000 years old, etc. Podcasting is a digital version of that. So your voice and your message can live on throughout, right? And the teachers can be universal. We're talking about, okay, this is entrepreneurship, but the personal qualities and personal branding qualities, they can be adapted for generations to come. So we're kind of passionate about podcasting is that it's open there. YouTube could go down tomorrow, for example, or it'll be bought out, and all the content, the millions of hours of data there could potentially be lost, right? But as podcasting, the RSS feed exists, your podcast will exist, your voice will exist effectively throughout eternity, right? Barring some major cataclysm. I'll get you too morose about that. So I just wanted to wrap up a little bit in terms of, is there any kind of particular, I know you mentioned some of the books that inspire you earlier, but are there any kind of figures who kind of still inspire you today and who kind of you still look up to?
Oh gosh, yeah, so many. Books wise, and actually people who I speak to quite regularly online, Daniel Priestley, Key Person of Influence. I think that's an incredible personal brand book and understanding how to be an authority figure in your industry, which is a book that I read multiple times. And then I have a circle of friends who are absolutely incredible. So a guy called Dean Forbes, who's the CEO of Fortereo, based in London, and also the chairman of Forbes Family Group, incredible business owner and CEO, and really helps me think on different levels. Tim Campbell, the
Apprentice winner,
and apprentice advisor to Alan Sugar. Again, speak to him quite regularly. I'm meeting him on Monday. He a great friend of mine, and also kind of holds me to account and helps me in certain areas of business. And just generally, I'm a great reader. I believe that readers are leaders, or leaders are readers, and try and upskill through reading. Listen a lot to podcasts, and I try and learn as much as I can through audio platforms and audio books. So I'm learning all the time. I think every opportunity or every day there's an opportunity for me to learn. And actually, I learned so much from my kids. I learned so much from my family. And if you follow me on any of my social media platforms, particularly LinkedIn, I quite often put out lessons that I've learned from my children and how that converts to business, and so forth. So yeah, I'm a learner every day. I'm a student every day.
I think your kids are obviously teaching you a lot more than mine are teaching me. So I'm going to have a word with them.
So what kids teach you a lot. You just have to open your eyes and be pretty.
Certainly. Okay, and just to wrap up then, is there if our listeners, whoever few they are, want to engage in your services and want to learn more about Tru Powell, where will they go to do that?
Oh, you can find me everywhere. So I'm on every social media platform. Excuse me, I just yawned for the listeners, and I'm sure you wanted to know that. But I'm on every social media platform, or all of the main social media platforms. So Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. I am on X, but I will be leaving X after this month, and I'll be going migrating to Blue Sky. But my handles are Tru_Powell. That's Tru_Powell. TRU_Powell. POWELL. I have my own website, which is trupowell.com. You can go on there, and links to social media platforms and so forth is on there as well. And if you wanted to connect with me through any of the businesses, Black Business Magazine, you can. The Multicultural Inspire Awards, you can. That's absolutely fine. Or Aston Performing Arts Academy, you can also connect with me on there. So I'm inescapable. Like I'm approachable. And yeah, just connect with me. Drop me a DM. Comment on one of my posts. And yeah, we can connect.
Did you hear that, guys? DM Tru Powell. Right. Awesome, Tru. I really appreciate your time, mate. Thank you very much for doing this.
So much. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.